Let's stop pretending the hostility between the United States and Iran began with angry men shouting, "Death to America," in 1979. That's the moment Americans remember, but that is not where the story starts. The real story starts decades earlier, with oil, power, and a decision that changed the Middle East forever. In the early 1950s, Iran wasn't some theocratic state run by clerics. It was trying, clumsily, imperfectly, but genuinely trying to become a democracy. The Iranian people elected a prime minister, Mohammad Mosaddegh. Mosaddegh committed a crime, so unforgivable in the eyes of global empires that it sealed his fate. He said, "Iran's oil belongs to Iran." At the time, Iran's oil was largely controlled by a British company, the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, today known as BP. The wealth flowing out of Iranian soil was enriching foreign powers while ordinary Iranians remained poor. So Mosaddegh did what any sovereign nation would try to do. He nationalized the oil industry, and that terrified the West, because if Iran could take back its resources, other countries might try the same thing. Britain went straight to Washington and said essentially, "Help us remove him." And the United States agreed. In 1953, the CIA and British intelligence launched a covert operation known as Operation Ajax. They bribed politicians. They funded propaganda. They paid people to riot in the streets. They manipulated the military. And they overthrew Iran's democratically elected government. Mosaddegh was arrested. Iran's democratic experiment was crushed. And in his place, the United States restored a king, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. For the next 26 years, the Shah ruled Iran with iron fists and American support. To keep him in power, a brutal secret police force called Savak hunted dissidents, imprisoned critics, and used torture to silence opposition. And every Iranian knew exactly who was backing the Shah: the United States. So for millions of Iranians, the lesson became painfully clear. America talks about freedom, but if democracy threatens Western power, democracy gets strangled in its crib. That humiliation festered for decades, until finally in 1979 the Iranian people erupted. The Iranian Revolution overthrew the Shah, but revolutions don't leave power vacuums empty. Into that chaos stepped Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who transformed Iran into an Islamic republic, and the rage toward America, built since the 953 coup, boiled over. That's when Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and held American diplomats hostage for 444 days. For Americans, that moment became the defining image of Iran. But for Iranians, the defining moment had happened 26 years earlier, when their democracy was destroyed. Two nations now staring at the same history through completely different lenses. Americans remember the hostages. Iranians remember the coup. And that single decision in 1953 created a geopolitical chain reaction that still shapes the world today. Because when the U.S. crushed Iran's secular democracy, it accidentally cleared the path for religious revolution. When you destroy moderate political systems, you don't get stability. You get extremes. The Islamic Republic rose in the vacuum left behind. And the Middle East we see today, the endless tension, the proxy conflicts, the nuclear standoffs, can all trace part of their origin back to that moment when great powers decided Iranian democracy was inconvenient. That's the unspoken tragedy. Two civilizations that once had diplomatic relations, cultural exchange, and even admiration for each other, turned into permanent enemies because of one brutal geopolitical calculation. And today, politicians scream about Iran like the hostility came out of thin air. But history remembers something different. A young democracy crushed, a revolution born from humiliation, and a rivalry that has been burning ever since. Not because the two peoples were destined to hate each other, but because powerful men made decisions that changed history, and the consequences never stopped echoing.